So this particular video that you're about to look at shows what can be done in order to address the issue of gentrification. What can be done to reduce the impact of gentrification, especially in poor communities that's going through redevelopment. And we know normally that means that poor people are going to be displaced through gentrification. So tonight's presentation is going to talk about strategies that can and need to be used in order to reduce the impact. It is a community-driven approach to doing partnerships with the public and private sector in order to bring about positive outcome for residents that are in poor communities. Tonight, you're going to hear about what's known as a community, let me make sure I got the right name, a community agreement. It's a community pact agreement. I think that's what it's called, community pact agreement. But Joe Robinson is going to talk about that agreement as one mechanism that the community can use to make sure that you're part of the process. This is not the first time for the West Tampa CDC. Two other projects in the past, we used this strategy with developers to make sure they leave an impact in the community. The first one was one developer that we reached an agreement because he was doing high-income housing in the neighborhood. We reached an agreement in which we were able to get an agreement of $625,000 to bring back to the community so residents can use that money for down payment so they can afford to live in that neighborhood. The other deal with the developer was to create an employment center with one of the particular development that they was doing. One of the houses will be developed into an employment center, which meant that residents will have an opportunity to get jobs, meaning that they'd be able to stay into the community. Needless to say, neither of those deals were meant to fruition because it was meant during just before the bubble bust. So that deal went upside down, but it showed what deals could be done. This most recent deal, which is with the Rome Yard project, by way of the community benefit packet or community benefit agreement, allowed us to put in a piece that assures that the community residents are getting the greatest bang from upward mobility from this deal. So setback, it's gonna be kind of long, but I think at the end of the day, you're gonna see how important it is on how do you put together the deal. It's gonna start with Joe Robinson, and then I'll end up by saying what the Rome Yard deal is. Thanks a lot, sit back and get ready.
Which then they turn in proposals to. So now what they're doing is creating the actual community benefit agreement, or the two agreements, a development agreement and a community benefit agreement. And the reason it's community benefit agreement, so that whatever is in it, finally approved, and we'll get another shot at it, city council, they gotta approve it, you know, it's not a CRA approval, it's a city council, because that's city land and they are people. But we'll get another shot at it at the end when city council finally starts looking at what they're bringing to them for approval as a development agreement and a community benefit agreement. So that when I'm gone, everybody gone, and someone says, well, you know what? Y'all were supposed to provide, because Mike Randolph know a little bit about it because the city of West Tampa involved, I think Project Leaks involved, so a lot of nonprofits were involved in that team. So what's happening is that they're going to flush out that, then they'll start doing the contract with the individual partners they got, which is a lot of partners, and then that community benefit agreement will be enforceable by the city as a legal document. So if the developer doesn't do it, which I don't think this developer ain't gonna do it, don't do it, they can then say, here, you agree to this legally, go do it. That's what the community wants. So that's why the community benefit agreement, and that is a legal document to make them do it. Okay, so that's why it was put in there, and we've had plenty talking about it. Bobby was talking about they want to have this AMI, this, and that, solar, this and that, you know, LED, all this stuff, sidewalks. So we put a lot of stuff, and they got 80%, I think. And so now it's just the final for people to comment that don't know all this. But
I just want to make sure the CAC is involved.
absolutely, absolutely. That's why, absolutely. If I hear something that I ain't heard nothing, ain't nobody called me, they just told me they're having that meeting, and I went there.
Okay.
We were there.
All right, anybody else? Any announcements?
Okay, Joe Robinson, thank you for bringing us up to par as to what is a community benefit agreement. And thank you to the CRA and the residents of West Tampa in particular for always supporting the West Tampa CDC and for allowing us to make tonight's presentation, which is going to be part of the community benefit agreement that the West Tampa CDC is bringing to the table. I want to give a shout out to Leroy Moore from the Tampa Housing Authority. He's one of our partners. He in the Housing Authority has been with us up and doing our downs and doing our sides. So I definitely want to give a shout out to him. I also want to give a shout out to the many voiceless community people in the neighborhood. We hear your voice. And this whole presentation is what we learned from the many community meetings that we've had. So without further ado, let me give some background history. This particular initiative that we're going to be talking about tonight is part of a discussion with the community from 2019 up until including August of 2021. And that came about throughout in terms of meetings. Of course, throughout the 2019 cycle and part of the 2020 cycle, we were able to give actually face-to-face meetings. Because of the pandemic, we went into doing virtual meetings. So we continue on with the meetings. From those meetings, here's what we learned. From those meetings, from doing focus groups, interviews, surveys with businesses, surveys with youth, surveys with seniors, survey with other nonprofits, with institutions of higher learning, with businesses, and go on and on, that we did the focus groups. Here's what we got from all that. We found that there are some critical concerns that the community has. One is public safety. The other is gentrification. The other is a lack of wealth, individual wealth. The other is technology. And then lastly, and what touched us the most was a feeling by most residents in West Tampa who are 80% or below or median income, those who had 70, 60, and 30% of median income, they felt that they was being left behind because of the many barriers that they have to overcome, be it a criminal record, be it lack of experience, be it a senior, a person with a disability, a low-income person in general, felt that they are being left behind. So as a result of that, what we're going to talk about tonight is the West Tampa CDC response. So let's get started. The West Tampa CDC is what we call a CCI. A CCI is what's known in the industry as a community comprehensive initiative. An initiative that looks at transforming the entire community, both the economic, physical, and social infrastructure all at the same time. And we do this from the West Tampa CDC side of the table by partnership with other nonprofit, government entities, the private sector, institutions of higher learning, and others. In order to be financially sustainable, we use the following model to bringing in different types of income streams, anywhere from grants, fee for services, all the way down to investment in financial security. The West Tampa Technology Wealth Building and Job Creation Initiative. Let's talk about what some of those initiatives are. Well, some of those initiatives, and it's coming out of what we got from the community, is to reduce gentrification, to increase public safety by using economic development that deter crime by creating opportunities that remove obstacles and increase hope. The one thing that the community was adamant about is that they didn't want to see a strategy that we tried to arrest our way out of this. They wanted to see a strategy that actually gave people an opportunity for second choices, second chances, and opportunities to really be uplifted economically. The other thing that was clear from the community is that they felt that they wanted to increase or decrease the digital divide. When we look at the numbers, not that many people, at least people who live in West Tampa, that are at that maybe 40, 30, 50% of low median income and below that have computers, and even more connected to the internet. Let's talk about some highlights. Well, quick highlights. I do want to emphasize that we want to create 50 to 70 new resident-owned businesses within the next 5 years. We'll talk later about how we're going to do that. And this is conservative. I think we can do the numbers even more when you hear about our strategy. From those new businesses, we want to have created anywhere from 75 to 100 new jobs in West Tampa. Now, let's talk about the initiative that we are bringing to the table as part of the community benefit agreement. We think with this agreement, the West Tampa will benefit the most from the possible gentrification from any project that's coming to the community. The other thing that's important to note is that the current initiative related to Rome Avenue is only limited to that geographic area, whereas the West Tampa CDC is responsible for the area that not only includes that area, and it includes that area, but the entirety of what we call the West Tampa CDC boundaries. So we see this as an initiative to go at the national monies so we can bring even more money into West Tampa to deal with critical issues that's facing the community. But for this particular initiative, there's the 6 different pieces that we bring into the table. A technology, performing arts and production, business development, community wealth center, and social enterprise. Let's talk about the technology center. Here's what we know. Those jobs that most people who income is anywhere from 80% or less to median income. Those jobs that are service industry focused, anywhere from people who are working in construction to people who are working on assembly lines, to people who are working at McDonald's, Walgreens, all those jobs are going to be taken over because of because of automation. Machines are going to take over those jobs. We have to put ourselves in a position, and that's what the Technology Center does, is to create opportunities for residents to be able to be successful in their bid to increase their income and their quality of life. And we're using the Technology Center as a mechanism to do that. Let's talk about how do we do that. The first thing is the training, in which we're providing both hard and soft skill training. That training includes anywhere from doing coding to game application, software, program development, web development, mobile application, etc. The other piece of that, and it's a critical, because we need to move from a perspective of low-income communities, from a Flintstone perspective. Y'all remember the Flintstones? To I think it's called Jetson. You remember the commercial with the cartoon with the guy who's able to get on ships and fly all over the place? The Jetsons, I think that's what it's called. But that's what we need to bring West Tampa from and low incomes in general to a perspective of high technology. And that's what this Technology Center does. The other thing it does is to increase the number of African Americans who's going into science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. It also focuses on reducing the digital divide, and more importantly, it focuses on how to use everyday technology and what people don't know about, how to use that technology in the application to make their life easier. Because if you don't understand the technology, and a lot of people don't know, their definition of technology is based on the Flintstone definition of technology. If you don't have a technology perspective, like again, the Jetsons, then you're lost. And we need to make sure we upgrade the community understanding to technology, and that's what this do. The Performing Arts Center and the Production Center. We think this particular initiative goes towards our public safety initiative in terms of how do we reduce crime in the community? How do you create opportunities for those people who are hanging on the corners, those people who are choosing life in the fast lane? How do you provide them with an opportunity to go legit? And we do this through our Performing Art and Production Center. Because what the research shows that strategies that use performing art and production reduces the level of violence and crime in the community. So it's going to consist of different pieces, the Art Center. It's going to be, the Performing Art and Production Center. You have your Art Center, and then you have your professional recording, video, TV production studio setup, where people can make professional videos and radio productions. And that's what they learn how to do. And they can create their own social media web shows. They can use this to do so much because they'll be trained in the latest art of video production, TV production, and radio production as well. In addition to that, the skills they're going to learn is how to do marketing and branding campaigns. Because the focus of this particular project is twofold. One is focused on businesses in West Tampa. We think that we're able to tie into that income by creating like jingles for that particular business. Now, we have over 400, 500, 600, 800 businesses in West Tampa that we can cater towards doing some type of commercial for that particular business, some type of jingle for that business, etc. And the reason why we come with an understanding that when they invest in the West Tampa CDC, they reduce crime in the community, they increase housing in the community, they increase revenue in the community, and at the end of the day, because of that, they attract the people that bring money to the community that increase their bottom line income. So that's the reason why I think that we're going to be able to attract businesses. Individuals we're going to be able to attract, because everybody and every man always wants to have something that he can do that's personalized. If he just meet this lady, he wants to impress her. And he come to us and say, like, I want to do a special video that I know that's made for her, that I can do to use in order to get to know her. Or it might be a person who has an anniversary that's coming up. And they say, I want a special video, a special song, or whatever. We'll be able to accommodate that for individuals in West Tampa as well. And again, we outline the reason why, because when you contribute to the program right here, you contribute to reducing crime, increasing employment opportunity, and on and on and on. So this is what we think is going to be a very important segment to the West Tampa overall strategy. Business Development Center. Let's talk about the Business Development Center. And as you can see, the number of businesses that we're looking at possibly bringing on board, 50 to 70. Our strategy is going to be focused towards home-based businesses. The number of businesses that's starting from a home-based perspective has shot up ridiculously since the virus. And we're going to do this by connecting people to using e-commerce and social media as a format to create business opportunity, including how to do drop shopping, how to put together online stores, etc. The target group that we're looking at is female heads of household, residents facing burials, being criminal records, seniors who's looking for additional income, the disabled, youth, and those facing economic challenges. So that becomes part of the strategy that we're using for the business development strategy. We're also looking at working with businesses to get started using bricks and mortar as well as e-commerce. For example, right now we have online for people that want to start a business in West Tampa, there are business classes that you can tie into right now immediately. A lot of services that we're talking about is ready right now online. Community Wealth Center. This is really touches my heart, coming from a poor community. And growing up in a community where most of us in my neighborhood were consumers. We always would spend, and we never learned how to invest our money. What the Community Wealth Center does is to take residents in West Tampa, and we talk about anywhere from the age 9 and up, to take them from being a consumer to thinking like an investor. That means taking them from the streets to Wall Street. These workshops include residents are going to learn how to read financial statements. They're going to learn how to be able to read financial sections in newspapers, financial channels on the internet. They're going to understand all of that. They're going to understand Wall Street. They're going to understand stocks. They're going to understand it from an in-depth perspective. And what's coming out of this is different type of investment clubs where people can learn how to invest. Anywhere from dollar stocks on over, the whole in-depth perspective on doing investment. That is so very important if you're talking about building generational wealth. Okay, we're coming near the end. How do we finance it? Well, we're looking at different ways of financing this particular project. And excuse me, I can see I didn't spell Tampa. It should be West Tampa. So here's how we plan to fund the project. The first is the Technology and Tech Center. We're looking at startup costs, and again, all these are startup costs of $65,000. Our funding sources for this is tech companies, foundations, corporations, the government, and other fundings. We know tech companies are out there would be, I think that we can attract them to this project because it's right in the city. And it's their way of giving back in terms of building wealth in the community. The other thing is the Performing Art and Production Center. We're looking at $75,000 at startup. We've already begun to contact in terms of funding source. We've already begun to contact people in the hip hop world, rappers and entertainers and singers, especially those that are coming from neighborhoods that are infested with crime, infested with poverty-stricken communities. We set an idea that we got a packet that we can bring to the table to make sure that everybody in the neighborhood, especially those poor people that's in the community that has a tendency to be gentrified out that neighborhood, we got a strategy to make sure residents, especially poor people, are able to elevate and become part of the redevelopment in the neighborhood. And I think that's how it's so important to especially entertainers that are coming from the streets. The other thing is the Business Development Center, in which we're looking at $70,000 as a startup. And we're looking at any fundings from lenders. We're looking from these particular projects here, we're looking at money from lenders, money from investors, and the foundations and corporations. We probably began to talk to at least 2 banks about our proposal to do this Business Development Center, because it's a comprehensive community entrepreneurship program that's anywhere from 6 to 12 months in length. But at the bottom line, it produces fundable business proposals that the banks will want to fund, and hence they definitely want to be part of the process of creating those type of potential customers. The Community Wealth Center is the last piece of this initiative. Keep in mind, we got other initiatives that's going on, but we want to focus on this particular initiative for this particular presentation before the CRA. Finally is the Community Wealth Center, in which we're looking at a startup cost of $150,000. We're looking at lenders and investors as well as foundations to fund this particular part of the funding proposal as well. With our ability to be sustainable financially is our ability to have ongoing streams of income that's coming in. That's why we're looking at starting at least 3 separate businesses. And we've done the feasibility study in which the West Tampa CDC will actually create to bring in different streams of income. We look at what is the definite income, the type of income that's in West Tampa. What do people spend their money on? What do people spend their money on after they pay all their bills? We look at all that in order to put together this strategy on creating 3 community businesses that we know community people will buy in by spending their dollars. Finally, community investment. Why is it important that you invest in the West Tampa CDC? For every dollar you invest into the West Tampa CDC, the money in the community recirculates. Have you ever heard of that saying that the dollar comes in the community by 9 and it leaves by 12? I don't know if it's true or not, but you get my point. That's normally what happens. So when you invest in the West Tampa CDC, those dollars stays in the community. If you invested in the community, the CDC, by buying a jingle for your company, by buying a specialized video or any of those things that we have that's coming out of our performing arts and art department, you give back to the community because your money now circulates. So instead of buying that video production from outside, where it's the only thing you get is that video, now you get that video, that production, plus you give back to the community so that the community can deal with issues of crime, affordable housing, etc., etc., etc. So in investing in the community and the different products that we'll be having and selling, you actually invest in the community and you get a fine product. The other thing is that when people invest in the community, and this goes to the investors and especially the lenders, you get anywhere from a 10 to 25% return on your investment, be it a monetary with ROI or be it a social ROI, that is return on your investment. And then finally, we get down to community debt. Investment means that residents have to invest in the community as well, back in the community. So that means if you come to the CDC and you get help with a job, starting a business, or any of those many services that we're going to be having up and running within the next anywhere from 3 to 6 months, that you have to pay back by doing volunteer work. And that volunteer work can be anywhere from doing a mentor program, helping the senior, helping the youth, helping with a cleanup, whatever the case might be. Because we believe that in order for us to take this to the next level, everybody has to do their part. So that ends the night's presentation. I do want to quickly talk about some up and coming initiatives that's going to be launched by the West Tampa CDC. The first is going to be the West Tampa Affordable Housing Initiative. The next one is going to be the West Tampa Community Health and Neighborhood Safety Initiative. From a health perspective, a lot of people have a lot of health issues in the community, and we want to focus on making this a healthier community. And we also understand that a lot of people are concerned about public safety in the community. So we definitely want to make this a much safer community. And then finally, the other initiative is going to be the West Tampa Community Engagement Initiative. This initiative is coming about as a result of the surveys that were done. The survey that was done by this group found that 45% of people in certain parts of West Tampa don't feel like they're part of the community, don't feel like they count. That survey also showed that up to 48% of people felt that they didn't want to be in West Tampa and they planned to move up from West Tampa. So this community engagement initiative is going to go at the grassroots, the street level, to start to mobilizing residents, to let them know the different services that are coming in, to build hope in the community. And we're going to be using all kind of software in order to reach all the way down to the community level. And we're going to be using mapping software that we can use and put maps together so we can show where the community needs are most in the neighborhood. So this then ends the presentation. I'm really looking forward to that community engagement. We're going to start being able to have access to different softwares of different people who live in West Tampa, different areas. So we can target different areas when we're doing mobilization to make sure everybody gets an opportunity to buy into the process. We know senior citizens, they don't use the email and they don't use social media because we're going to use that to drill down in the neighborhood. For seniors, they use phones for the most part, your baby boomers. So what we've done now is identify all of the phone numbers that's in West Tampa. So you're going to be getting a call from us as well. This community engagement initiative is going to be like no initiative that's ever been launched in West Tampa to make sure that we leave no seed unturned as to what do the community want. Anywhere from the person that's dealing with substance abuse, to the person that's dealing with mental health issues, to the person that's dealing with domestic violence, to the person that's dealing with family being broke up, to the person that's feeling like they're young people and the people don't buy in because they're not listening, to the seniors out there, and those other specific groups of people, the disabled, we hear you. We hear you. To the low income that feel like you don't count because too many people come to your neighborhood and they plan things and you're not part of it. We hear you. We hear you. And in the next couple of months, you're going to be hearing from us up close and personal, be it through social media, a phone call, or email. I want to end this by saying it's time for West Tampa.